Steve Lipp came to Club Velvet to wait out Christmas because the island didn't believe in miracles, and neither did he anymore. Rain stitched the night together outside, steady and patient, turning the muddy road into a mirror that didn't flatter anyone. Inside, the club leaned into its usual half-sleep. Low neon, beer mugs sweating on scarred tables, music looping like it had forgotten why it started. Someone had dragged a plastic Christmas tree near the jukebox. Crooked. One string of lights flickering between red and green like it was unsure which mood to commit to. Steve took his usual seat at the bar. Not hiding, not visible either. Just placed. The bartender slid him a drink without asking. Christmas special. Something red. Something strong. Something pretending to be cheerful. That's when Steve noticed the gift. It sat beneath the tree, wrapped in plain brown paper, no ribbon, no tag. Too neat to be trash. Too deliberate to be forgotten. It hadn't been there 5 minutes ago. Steve was sure of it. He'd been staring at that tree longer than he wanted to admit. He looked around. A couple at a corner table laughed too loud. A woman in a silver dress traced the rim of her glass like she was remembering someone else's mouth. Two men argued quietly over nothing that mattered. No one looked at the tree. No one looked at the gift. Steve cleared his throat. Anyone lose something? No response. He tried again. Louder. Nothing. The bartender didn't even glance over. The gift waited. Steve hesitated longer than he should have. In Club Velvet, things didn't just appear. They arrived with intent, with consequence. Finally, he picked it up. Light. Almost weightless. He brought it to the bar, set it between his glass and the ashless counter, unwrapped it slowly. The paper peeled back without resistance, like it wanted to be opened. Inside was a folded bar receipt. Old, yellowed, creased soft from being handled too many times. The date printed at the top stopped his breath cold. December 25th, years ago. Steve stared at it until the club noise dimmed. Ronda McGavin. The memory didn't arrive gently. It stepped right up to him, confident as ever. She'd worked as an elf at the beach hotel complex back then. Bare legs, red and green costume that made no sense in the heat. Steve had been night manager. Clipboard, keys, authority he didn't deserve. She'd smiled at him like rules were optional and boredom was a crime. They hadn't done anything reckless. That was the strange part. Just mischief. Sneaking pastries from the guest buffet. Riding service elevators for no reason. Joking in hallways meant for silence. She laughed quietly like she knew the walls listened. That night felt like stealing time. Like borrowing a life that wasn't his. And then she was gone. Fired. Steve swallowed. He remembered the meeting, the accusation, the way people had looked at him, waiting for confirmation. He hadn't blamed her, but he hadn't corrected them either. Silence had been easier, cleaner. She paid for it. A sound from upstairs pulled him back. A door, soft, intentional. Steve felt it before he thought it. She was here. The club's upper rooms weren't for sleeping. They were for waiting. For deals that didn't want witnesses. For people who didn't leave the island so much as settle into it. Steve climbed the stairs slowly, each step heavier than the last. The hallway smelled like damp wood and old perfume. One door stood open, light spilling out in a narrow blade. Ronda McGavin waited inside, not dressed like an elf anymore. Something silver, tight, dangerous in a quiet way. She looked at him like she'd been patient enough. "You kept the receipt," she said. Steve's mouth went dry. "I didn't know I had." She smiled. Not kind, not cruel, certain. They talked, carefully. every word placed like a glass on a crowded table. Steve thought she'd come to hurt him, thought she'd planned it for years. The tension sat between them, electric, convincing, until she told him what she really wanted. The truth. Out loud. In public. The story told right for once. Her name cleared. The past unbent. "But if you do," she said softly, stepping closer, "you don't leave." Steve understood then. Club Velvet wasn't a punishment. It was a sentence, a holding pattern for men who finally chose right too late. Someone had died back at the hotel. A chain reaction. Silence had consequences. Steve went back downstairs. The music looped. The tree flickered. The bartender listened as Steve spoke, steady and clear, telling the story the way it should have been told years ago. When he finished, the club felt lighter, not redeemed, just honest. Ronda was gone. Steve didn't look for her. He ordered another Christmas drink. Someone put Die Hard on the TV above the bar. Snow on screen. Rain on the roof. Steve leaned back, surrounded by strangers who felt like future problems. Club Velvet would keep him sharp, keep him company, keep him honest. For the first time in a long while, Steve smiled. Christmas, after all, had a way of leaving you exactly where you belonged.